Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. I'm Jamey. That's Heath. Joining us now, it's our buddy Adam Azer. Welcome to the show, and we're going to get to Overreaction Monday here. You just missed Adam as we closed our first segment of the show. Heath was saying how much of a genius you are for suggesting Dawson Knox as a must-start tight end rest of way 3 weeks ago. So kudos to you for that recommendation. All right, let's get to Overreaction Monday. We know there are a lot of players that are struggling that you guys are concerned about, and so we're going to try and address some of them. We can't get to all of them, but here are 10 players that we're a little bit worried about based on their production either to the start of the season so far or what they did in week number 4. And so we're going to get to all these guys. We're going to play a little game as a result of it of start, bench, or cut. I got it right this time, Heath. Start, bench, or cut. So Adam and Heath are going to tell you what you should do with these players moving forward. Probably not going to cut a lot of these guys, but there might be some consideration in 10-team leagues or smaller. So Heath, you're up first. Miles Sanders coming off another disappointing game. 7 carries for 13 yards, 3 catches for 34 yards. Start him in week 5, bench him in week 5, or you cut him.
I am Mr. Nuance, so I'll be bad at this game, but I'm definitely not cutting Miles Sanders. He still played at least 60% of the snaps in every game, and I definitely don't want to start Miles Sanders because how do you start a guy who has like 9 carries in his last 2 games? So he's definitely in the bench group, and there might be a situation if you have to choose between starting him or cutting him, I would choose starting, but bench is where I'd be.
All right, so bench Miles Sanders. All right, and I guess I should put a caveat on this because we have a lot of show to get to. You got 30 seconds on each guy, so make it a little bit quick on how we get through it so we can get through all of them. All right, so Adam, Myles Gaskin. Oh my gosh, I thought he was going to be awesome this year. He's been a total dud. You could say offensive line, you could say just him, Brian Flores, whatever, but 2 for 3, 2 carries for 3 yards, no catches in week number 4 against the Colts. Start, bench, or are you cutting Myles Gaskin?
Definitely benching him, and I would consider cutting him in a 10-team league, not a 12-team league or anything deeper. There are some serious concerns here. He's got to be on the field in passing downs. I mean, next week against the Buccaneers, forget it. You can't start him. You can't trust him, but I think in general, we'll give him a little bit more leash and hope that when Tua Tagovailoa gets back, there's more opportunities for him. He'll catch some more passes. That was gone in week 4. But really, Jacoby Brissett is fantasy poison for everyone in the Dolphins roster. So you can cut him in a shallower league, but I'd like to hold on to him if I can, and I'm definitely sitting Myles Gaskin in week 5, pardon me.
Mike Gesicki might argue the poison for Jacoby Brissett, but otherwise, yes, it's been bad for almost everybody else. All right, Chris Carson, this one I didn't quite understand, but he's coming off a bad game, and Alex Collins did have a strong performance, and so I just think people just don't really love Chris Carson for whatever reason. But 13 carries for 30 yards against the 49ers, 1 catch for 1 yard. Start, bench, or I doubt you're cutting, but Chris Carson heading into week number 5 against the Rams.
Listen, Arizona just ran all over the Rams. I guess that defense isn't that good. I'm going to probably start Chris Carson as a low-end number 2 running back. I have downgraded him from where he was. I do think Alex Collins is a concern, but you can't cut him, and you're probably not benching him. There aren't that many good running backs.
Is he a buy low?
He could be a buy low if you can buy low enough.
All right, it's buy low enough. So we'll see what his trade value is. All right, this one when I put when I sent the tweet out about players you're concerned about, I got a lot of emojis back of CDs, some Lambs. Everybody trying to be cute, but CeeDee Lamb, who's had a couple rough performances after 2 good games, but 2 catches, 13 yards on 5 targets in a game where Dak Prescott had multiple touchdowns once again. So. Adam, again, I'm sure you're not cutting CeeDee Lamb in any format, but starting or benching him in week number 5 for Dallas.
He should have had a touchdown 2 weeks ago. He rolled over just short of the end zone. This was a legitimately bad game, though, with the 5 targets and the 2 catches. I'm not all that worried about CeeDee Lamb. Maybe we have to lower our expectations because they're not throwing as much as we thought, but I am starting him against the Giants. Actually could be a pretty high-scoring game. I think Lamb is going to be okay, and I'll start him in week 5.
Another buy low candidate here. Do you think people should go out and try and get him?
I do, actually. Yeah, it's hard to know what to give up for CeeDee Lamb because he might just be in a big group of wide receivers that are all pretty good but not terrific. But I do think Lamb is going to be a guy that's worth starting most weeks going forward. Let's say he's a top 60 overall player going forward.
All right, so we'll see if things go well for CeeDee Lamb taking on the Giants. You said a big group of wide receivers who are not playing well. Well, this guy certainly qualifies. Robert Woods, who had 4 catches, 48 yards, and actually scored, but only 6 targets. Again, it was a very late touchdown against the Cardinals. So a lot of people concerned about Robert Woods, Heath, with the way that he's performing. So start, bench, or cut Robert Woods.
This is going to sound weird, but I'm probably going to start Robert Woods this week just because it's a Thursday game, so there will be plenty of players we don't know for sure if they're playing, and then it's against Seattle, and so I think it's going to be a shootout. And he has scored at least 11 PPR points in 3 of his 4 outings. So as a number 3 wide receiver, definitely starting. If you only started 2 and it was non-PPR, maybe then I would bench. No way I'm cutting.
Do you think think the overreaction to Robert Woods is just how well Cooper Kupp has done? Is that why people are so down on him? Because, again, the floor has been okay for the most part. The ceiling has been non-existent. And I think that's where people are just a little frustrated.
Well, it's because the offense looks awesome and he's getting left out. But we've seen this with the Rams over and over and over since Sean McVay's been there. There's a month stretch or a 2-month stretch where one guy does something, and then it just changes. It'll change.
All right, so maybe you're selling high on Cooper Kupp as a result of that. And that last week's game or this past Sunday's game was a result of maybe the tide changing a little bit and maybe going away from Cooper Kupp. All right, Adam, Courtland Sutton. So we know there's a quarterback situation we got to keep an eye on in Denver. Teddy Bridgewater suffering concussion. But we have only seen really one good game from Courtland Sutton so far this year. Had 3 catches for 47 yards on 8 targets against the Ravens. So taking into account the quarterback situation, are you starting, benching, or cutting Courtland Sutton heading into Week 5 at Pittsburgh?
I think most weeks I'd say he's a number 3 wide receiver, but this week at Pittsburgh, I am definitely sitting Courtland Sutton. He is 6th in the NFL in average depth of target. So they are throwing the ball about 20 yards for every target he gets. Drew Lock is just not reliable enough. I know he can throw the ball downfield, but not with great accuracy. And the Steelers, when you look at what they've done against wide receivers, are not giving up a lot of big plays. So it's a bad matchup with probably a bad quarterback. If Bridgewater's back, I'd be maybe a little bit more optimistic about Sutton. But this is why I don't like air yards unless we're talking about true stud receivers. It leads to too much inconsistency. He's at best a number 3 receiver, and right now I'm going to call Sutton a sit. I'd still like to hang on to him, at least while Jerry Jeudy is out. Their bye week isn't for a while, so I'm going to try to hang on to him, but I'm sitting Sutton this week.
And Pittsburgh coming back home after a couple games on the road. I saw Joe Hayden tweet something about, we need to go back home and start to play better. TJ Watt, I'm sure, is going to say something similar, so it could be a rough game for the Broncos offense as a whole, making that cross-country trip. So it could be bad for Courtland Sutton in that matchup, especially if Drew Lock is under center. All right, this was the guy that we had high expectations for, Heath, and he's just been miserable week after week after week. And it's Allen Robinson coming off another down game. Actually, a pretty good game for him so far this season, but 3 catches, 63 yards on 3 targets. Justin Fields has not done the things we hoped for Allen Robinson so far. They may go back to Andy Dalton this week. So start, bench, or are you cutting Allen Robinson maybe in a 10-team league?
I'm not cutting Allen Robinson even in a 10-team league, but I'm not starting Allen Robinson either. You can't have any faith in this offense no matter who the quarterback is. In fairness, this was his best game of the season so far with 63 yards, but he didn't get into the end zone, so he's a bench.
And the Raiders' defense, we'll see again how they come out of this game. But their pass rush has been a problem for opposing quarterbacks, so it could make it tough on a gimpy Andy Dalton or an inexperienced Justin Fields, as we saw last time he faced a pass rush like this 2 weeks ago against Cleveland. It was bad for him, so we'll see who's starting for the Bears in week number 5. All right, Heath, I'm going to stick with you on this one. So JuJu Smith-Schuster, I saw you say you're done with him. 2 catches, 11 yards on 8 targets. Are you officially done with him? Or are you cutting him?
I would cut him in a non-PPR league. I would cut him in a 10-team league. This offense is disgusting. And he could have had 2 touchdowns. One of them was his fault. One of them was Ben's fault. And I don't have any faith that it's going to get better. Maybe Mason Rudolph will fix things.
Wow. So time to move on. Adam, you agree? You're cutting JuJu?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything Heath said.
Wow, time to cut JuJu Smith-Schuster. Who would have thought we'd be at that point? Hopefully things turn around for him, but it's hard to buy into what the Steelers' offense looks like right now and the way that JuJu has been performing. All right, Adam, you said before the season you were concerned about George Kittle as being one of the elite fantasy tight ends. I know you weren't saying not to draft him. You certainly weren't saying to avoid him in that round 3, round 4 range, depending on where he's falling. But it hasn't been a great start. Still looking for his first touchdown. The quarterback situation now changing again because Trey Lance going to start for the injured Jimmy Garoppolo for however many weeks we don't know. But at least that's going to be the case going into week 5. George Kittle coming off a game, 4 catches, 40 yards despite 11 targets. And we saw Ross Dwelly catch a touchdown in week number 4 against the Seahawks. Are you benching George Kittle at this point? Let's say you have Dawson Knox. Would you start Dawson Knox over George Kittle?
No, I would not. I would start Kittle. This game at Arizona, they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. I am worried about Trey Lance. He did not look very good. Even the wide open touchdown pass was underthrown, but I am not sitting George Kittle. It just takes one big play. He's one of the best big play tight ends we have.
All right, hopefully Kittle gets going, start to find the end zone, at least get to your 5 touchdowns. I mean, that's something you do year over year. Right now, you're on a bad pace, so you got to get in the end zone at least once this week to sort of get back on track to where you typically are. All right, Heath, Kyle Pitts, we know he's a guy that we thought could be a top 6 tight end this year. He's not performed up to that level, and we're watching Cordarrelle Patterson catch touchdown after touchdown while Kyle Pitts still looking for his first score. 4 catches, 50 yards on 9 targets despite Matt Ryan looking awesome in week number 4 against Washington. Is it time to bench Kyle Pitts?
I'm not benching Kyle Pitts. I thought this was going to be the week. He got the volume for it to be the week. They had the great passing performance. He just got left out. I'm going right back to him. He's got 26 targets in 4 games. That's a starting tight end.
All right, we'll see if these guys start to pick it up. So these are the players you're concerned about. Obviously, we're going to address them as much as we can throughout the week, whether it's on our podcast or here, but don't panic yet. You heard so far, out of the 10 names we gave you, the only one the guy said to cut was JuJu Smith-Schuster. So don't drop anybody out of spite, but you don't have to necessarily start all of these guys moving forward, and hopefully they start to pick things up and you can buy back into them, and they could be buy low candidates as well if you get them cheap. Now is the time to try and acquire those players for your fantasy team. Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and nonstop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.